So hi, everybody. It's so good to see you. Thanks for coming to this presentation of Slow Power, how to shift from overworked and overwhelmed to thriving, sustainable success. So I know, first of all, that you're all really busy people. And so I'm honored that you're choosing to spend part of your evening, your afternoon, your evening with me. And I hope that you'll get something valuable that you can use to be more relaxed, calm, and achieve your goals with ease as you move through your work in the world. I don't know about, probably not for you, Sylvan, over there, but in the Bay Area, we just had a torrential rainstorm yesterday. All day, more rain than we've gotten in, one of the biggest storms in the Bay Area that's ever happened. So it was kind of a nice reminder of this seasonal desire to just stay inside, go inside, slow down, and rest. Oh, Laura's coming. So I'm gonna just wait a second for Laura. Hi, Laura, nice to see you. I was just getting started and I was just thanking everybody for coming because it is such a busy time of year. It's always a busy time of year, I guess. And I'm just really honored that you're choosing to spend some time with me to learn about slow power. Like I said, yesterday was the beginning of, felt like the beginning of fall for me. And it was a reminder that this time of year is a time to really start to slow down, go inside, do some inside projects. I don't mean just inside the house, but inside your soul for some inside projects and introspection, which is why I always start my Slow Power program in the fall. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the seasonality of things as we get going. So I like to start these things, both for me and for you guys, to do a little grounding meditation to get connected with your body. One of the things that I have found that's a key element of slow power for me is just connecting to my body and allowing the inside of the body goes at a slow pace that the mind doesn't always go in. So as a way to connect the two and sort of start to slow down, I like to do a little grounding meditation. So if you're at a place where you can put your feet on the ground and start to take a couple slow, deep breaths. And if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes, rest your hands in your lap. And feeling your breath, filling your belly, filling your lungs completely. Holding at the top of the in-breath where you're full of air, and just feel what that feels like for a minute before slowly letting all the breath out. Feeling your feet on the ground, feeling your sit bones on the chair, just feeling supported by the earth, by the chair, by your floor, by your home, and on the earth. Relaxing your shoulders, maybe opening your chest, opening your heart just a little bit, and feeling the crown of your head raise up a little bit to the sky, creating a little bit more space in your heart and your belly for your breath. And maybe for the first time today, tuning in to what's happening on the inside for you. I like to put one hand on my heart and one hand on my belly in a gesture of just like listening in, holding my own experience, holding your own experience. What's it like just to feel your own body, your own heart, your own breath? Maybe noticing a gentle smile forming at the corners of your mouth, the back of your eyes, and your heart. Sometimes it helps me to feel that gentle smile by thinking of something that I'm really grateful for, something or someone. Maybe it's just grateful to yourself for showing up and taking some time.
Recording in progress. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I'm muting you. There we go. There we go. I muted you. Okay, so back to yourself. See if you can just notice how, just with this 1 minute of gentle breathing, that your nervous system kind of lets go a little bit. This is a big part of slow power. It's really learning how to regulate your nervous system so that we're not in that fight or flight, always on, always doing, always thinking that so many of us are used to. If you have an intention for the next hour of your day, you can let that bubble up from your heart. You can write it down. I hope you all have a journal or something to write in, by the way. Forgot to write that too. And when you're ready and you feel grounded and you feel regulated and you feel heard, you can open your eyes and join us here. So most of you know me, although Laura knows me a little bit less than the rest of you. So I'm just going to give a little bit of an intro. So I'm Kelsey Lowitz, and I'm an acupuncturist and a transformational life coach. And I help high achieving women learn to slow down, tune into your heart, your inner wisdom, so you can stop overworking, stop looking for outside validation, and say yes to yourself and create your life working for you with ease and joy. Yeah, I see some nodding. You might know that before I became a healer, I had a long career in the corporate world. And before that, a career in school. And I've just basically always been an overachiever. I worked as hard as possible, as hard as I knew how. And I believe that my success came from exertion, persistence, hard work, being smart, being helpful, all the good smart girl things that I needed to be. It got me rewards, it got me validation, it got me good jobs. And I felt good enough when I was achieving in these ways. The problem is that you can work like that and achieve and achieve and achieve. And just like me, one day wake up and go, wait a minute, whose life am I living? I got all the things, I checked all the boxes, and I just wasn't deeply happy. You would have looked at me from the outside, and even from the inside, I was happy, but I wasn't deeply happy, right? So there was a way that some part of me knew something was off. At that point, I was married, I had a house, 2 dogs, 2 cars, all the things. And I just let it all go. I mean, in some ways, I actually had to blow it up, got a divorce, and that helped me start my own path of healing. So as I began to, I got a divorce about 17 years ago. And as I began to put the pieces of my life back together in my early 30s, I realized that I didn't know what I most deeply wanted. I think I was in therapy, and my therapist said, like, what do you feel? And I not only didn't know what I wanted, I didn't know what I was feeling. So I had this whole journey of like, what do I feel? What do I want? Who am I? And through the last 20 years-ish, I've learned, I've developed tools. Started with yoga and meditation and, counseling and all of that. Finally, I ended up quitting the corporate world and becoming a coach myself, and then started the path of Chinese medicine and becoming a healer. And through that 20 years of healing myself, I've developed this toolkit, which now I'm super passionate about helping other women do without blowing their whole lives up, right? You don't have to go through what I went through to get some of the wisdom that I've gathered over these past 20 years. Like I said, I lived in my head most of my adult life. And that's pretty common in our culture, right? The things that we can get to with our head are the things that are praised, right? The hard work, the intelligence, that kind of stuff. Slowing down and tuning into your heart is sort of foreign to most people and isn't outwardly praiseworthy. So this program is about helping you integrate the two and realize that your deepest wisdom, your heart, and your inner knowing is what will lead you to your biggest success as well. So what I developed is a system that I call slow power. Slow power is the clarity of intuition, vitality in the body, and openness of heart that come from letting go and slowing life down. Unlike the do more and get ahead approach that's praised by our culture, that inevitably leads to resentment and burnout, slow power will leave you fulfilled and energized as you take your life to the next level. So what does slow power mean for me? Slow power means listening to the calm voice of my inner wisdom, telling me that I can slow down and still succeed, and reminding me that I can love myself even when I'm not succeeding, even if I failed. It means hearing but not always believing the inner critic that says I need to work harder and get praise in order to be good enough. It means feeling my feelings, all of them, the good ones, the bad ones, the ugly, and bringing compassion to myself when things feel hard, when I failed, or when I'm not productive. It means creating spaciousness in my day, in my week, in my month, practicing my tools like yoga, spending time in nature, doing meditation, and really trying to stay grounded in my body when life gets crazy. It really means knowing myself, my desires, my yeses. And knowing your yeses means you also know your no's, which allows you to set better boundaries. So that's been a big part of slow power for me. And I think it's a big part for many of us as well. It means setting goals for myself that feel exciting and fresh and growing in ways that feel meaningful and aligned with my values, right? Slow power doesn't mean like no more goals, just chilling out. It actually means setting really big goals for yourself and just believing and trusting that you can meet them in a different way. It means approaching these goals from a place of ease and trust and letting go so that I can achieve my goals without pushing, without forcing myself and working myself into the ground. So that's the new paradigm that I'm here to tell you about today. It's called slow power, and I discovered it myself. I put it into this system, the slow power process, and I'm going to teach you a couple of the big ideas from it today so that you have something that you can go away with. And then at the very end, I'll tell you a little bit about the 5-month program that I'm launching that takes you more in depth if you're desiring to go more in depth than we go today. So basically, trust me, and come along for the ride, that I believe you can have ease, joy, calm, balance, and be wildly successful. I believe you can meet your own needs without disappointing others or not caring so much if other people are disappointed, because it doesn't really matter. You can't please everybody all the time. And slow power, if you believe me, I believe, means you can let go, slow down, and still achieve your goals. All right, so why are you here? If you were drawn to this talk today, there's a chance, or chances are, that part of you is aware that you overwork. You may even have a sense that this always on mode is actually burning you out. And you may even know that it's actually holding you back. There's a way, as we're young, that like that kind of hard work, it does advance you, right, in your 20s. But at some point you get to a place where that kind of hard work, that do starts to hold you back. And I can give you an example from my own life of how that worked for me. You may also know that when you're tired and stressed and worn out, you can't do your best work. So if you know all these things, and you're all very smart people, I know you. So why is it so hard to do something different? Well, first of all, our culture, our society, our employers, our parents, our teachers, everybody that we've ever taken instruction from says that hard work is the key to success, right? So, and especially, it's the meta message that we all live in, right? So saying no to that takes a lot of courage. And what you're going to come up against as I go through this talk with you today is you're going to come up against resistance. And I like to explore resistance really quickly, because resistance is it's subtle, but it's the thing that stops most people from making changes. We always face intense internal resistance when we want to make a change like I'm asking you to make today. Giving up old patterns and old ways of being and old habits is extremely hard. And part of it is by this internal and external resistance. So what is resistance? Well, if I asked you all right now, just like, what is 2 times 2? You would know, because it just is automatic. You would say 4. But if I said, what is 19 times 43? What happens in your body? It's a little bit harder, right? It's not automatic, right? It's just not as easy. So yeah, you could do it. All of us could do it. You get out a pencil and a paper, you take out your calculator, you're 19, carry the one, whatever. It's just not as easy. But that feeling that like first came into your body when I said, what is 19 times 43? It's like, I feel it as just a little squeeze around my heart. It's just this, oh, I don't, or maybe in your throat. Everybody feels it a little somewhere else. And that little squeeze, that little piece of you that's unsure comes with a story, a narrative that you tell yourself. And that could be like, ugh, this is too hard. It's not worth it. It will never work for me. I don't actually believe it's true. I'm not good enough. I don't know the answer. I must work harder, right? Or any number of stories that you tell yourself. Underneath resistance is just fear. Resistance is a symptom of fear. So as you go through today, you might experience some resistance to some of the concepts I'm saying, and that's okay. Just let the resistance be there. Note it for yourself. Here's how I see when I'm in resistance. Distraction, judgment. So distraction is, I don't have time for this. I'm going to check my Facebook. I'm going to, do something else. I'm going to text somebody. Like, I distract myself when I'm in resistance to something, even and especially when it's something I really need to learn or change or do. I can go into judgment. You might find yourself judging me, judging coaching, whatever, just being in judgment. You could judge yourself. I already know this. This won't work. It won't work for me. You can go into disbelief, like, I don't believe it. Or even, this one is a big one for me, the little bit of dissociating, like, so I lost it, or it doesn't make sense to me, or I get kind of confused. And I'm a pretty smart person. So when I feel that's happening and I kind of lose the train, I can usually tell that there's some fear or resistance to like being present with what's actually being said. So just notice if you get into any resistance today, and we'll hopefully be able to work through it. So I just ask you today to come to this with beginner's mind and openness and a little bit of trust that whatever you're feeling is okay. And at the end, you can ask about whatever you had resistance to, or actually share that you had resistance, because usually it's about something that's important. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right into the first of the three big ideas. The first that I already gave you a hint is that you're overworking and it's keeping you stuck. And overwork at this stage of your life is actually holding you back from what you most deeply want. You can't get what you most deeply want just by working harder anymore. The problem is when your worth and your value is tied to your accomplishments and what you're accomplishing and the results you're achieving, you work harder because that's the ego. That's the ego. It's our work, it's our jobs, it's our families, whatever. The more work, the more reward. And what's the impact of working like that? Well, you usually take on too much, and you often feel like you're the only one who can do it, which can leave you feeling unsupported. And your mind is always going, which means your nervous system can't deeply rest. Like, if your worth is tied to your achievements, you have to keep working, right? And it's not just physical. It's a lot of it is in our society is mental. So your mind is going. Your nervous system can't rest. You move too fast. No time for your feelings. So how do you feel about what you're doing? How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel? There's not a lot of time for feeling if you're always thinking. And if you can't feel, I associate that with not connecting with yourself. And when you can't connect with yourself, it's really hard to connect deeply with others as well. And when you can't connect with yourself or others deeply, you really can't experience deep happiness or pleasure. And I mean, I have a long list of impact. I'll do two more impacts here, and then we'll move on to like, what's the possibility? Well, you also often feel angry or resentful of others. And sometimes it's often the very people that you're trying to help or trying to do for. And usually that anger and resentment is a sign that you've let a boundary be crossed. So this is all about being able to set good boundaries with you, between you and your work. And eventually you get burned out, you get depressed, and you have nothing left to give. And then what good is it anyway, right? So what's the possibility? Well, when you do set good boundaries and you make yourself a priority in your own life, you can stop overworking and overgiving. You have a sense of what's my responsibility here and what's not my responsibility. You can easily say no to misaligned demands for your time because you're putting yourself and your yeses first. You can ask for support from others and easily receive it. You don't feel like everything is your responsibility, and you feel okay disappointing others rather than disappointing yourself. Obviously, that leads to less anger and resentment of yourself and others because you're not letting your unspoken boundaries get crossed. Ultimately, then you have more space in your schedule. You actually feel like there's more space in your body for your breath, for connecting to yourself. You take care of your body, your health, you sleep more soundly, and basically you feel alive. So that is what slow power feels like. That's what slow power feels like. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't tell everybody, I might have put it in the email. Do you have a journal or something to write with? Okay. So I'm going to have you just take a minute for self-reflection. Where in your life do you know you are already working too hard? Where are you overextending or overgiving or taking more responsibility than you need to? You can think of all the places you might be doing more than your share of the work. It could be at work. Maybe you're not delegating or asking for support. It could be at home with your partner or kids, community or your dogs, community, taking responsibility for other people too much. Just take a moment and get really clear on where are the main areas in your life that you're giving too much or working too hard. How is it benefiting you to overwork in this way? Because you probably wouldn't be doing it if there weren't some benefit to you. So what are you getting in return for this overwork, overgiving? I know for me, I often overwork because in the past and still now, I get praise for being competent, and that feels good to my ego. It feels good to be helpful. Sometimes I overwork or overgive my share because I get to stay connected to others through my giving. I get to feel generous, kind, or noble. Sometimes there's awards, grades, rewards, financial outcomes of overworking. You get to feel accomplished, check things off the list. So what is the benefit for you of this overwork? And then last question, what's the cost of the overwork? You could get burned out, your health. You end up feeling resentful of the people you're trying to help. Are you sacrificing your sleep, your exercise, healthy eating? Are your relationships suffering? What's the cost to your presence, your health, your relationships, your own goals, your own vision, your own long-term success and growth? What do you feel like is your cost of this overwork? I like to tell a story of the cost for me when I was in the corporate world. I was in the corporate world so long ago now that it feels a little less relevant, but I'll say this is my story, but I coach women on this very same thing all the time. I worked at a technology company, and it was a growing company, and I was kind of on an initial team. And as it grew, more people came in, and I had a lot of the institutional knowledge. And so I felt kind of important that I kind of knew where everything was. And so as new people, even people above me, VPs and whatever joined, they would come to Kelsey. Kelsey knew everything. Oh, Kelsey will know that. Go to Kelsey, right? And I felt so important. And I was really valued as a member of the team because I knew everything. And that gave my ego this big boost. And needless to say, I would spend my whole day answering people's questions and being in conversations and whatever. And then at the end of the day, I'd realize that I had just spent my whole day meeting other people's needs. And now I needed to stay until 8 o'clock at night to finish my work, because I just did everybody else's work all day. And so that felt okay for a while until I realized that I wasn't getting promoted because I was just hardly doing my work. I was really important, but you have to kind of meet your own goals and really, really advance your own goals in order to get promoted. And so that was like a little bit of a bite in the ass. That hard work for everybody else got me to a certain level. And then I needed to learn how to delegate, ask for help, not say yes to everything, right? In order to get to the next level. And there is that same thing that happens even in the work I do now. When I overgive, either in a treatment or in a coaching session or in a day, I'm less vibrant and alive and powerful. I had an example where when I was first doing acupuncture, somebody in the neighborhood called me. I was already full. I was booked for the day. And at the very end of the day, he wanted to get in for a treatment. And I don't know, I kind of wanted to impress him. He was kind of a big shot in the neighborhood. And I was like, all right, he was having a hard time. I think his mother had died. Something had happened. And I honestly wanted to help him, but I kind of knew better. And I brought him in at the end of the day, and I was exhausted. I should have just said, no, I can see you tomorrow, or I can see you on Friday. And instead, I let him come in. I sacrificed my boundaries. I was exhausted. I didn't give him a great treatment, and it totally backfired. Not only did I not help him, I didn't help myself. He never came back. And it was a really good example of you're only as good as the power and the energy that you have within you. So, the work I do now really requires me to stay full on the inside. So, anyway, that's when overworking really keeps you stuck. Overworking overwhelms you. All right. Big idea number 2, slow power concept number 2. It's actually really, they're all tied together, but it's very tied to number 1. You're worthy of love, even when you aren't achieving or accomplishing anything. You're good enough just as you are. And another way to say this is when you think you need more self-discipline, you probably just need more self-love. And this comes from my experience of the fact that when we tie our achievements to our self-worth, we beat ourselves up. You only feel good enough when you're getting and achieving the positive feedback from others. So and this kind of, when there's no feedback coming, in lieu of any feedback at all, this is an example, we often expect the worst. If I'm not hearing anything, well, then I must not be good enough. So that leads us into this drive for more and more validation. This also makes you really hard on yourself, right? Your inner critic is whispering lies to you. You're not good enough. You're not you're not fast enough. You're not pretty enough. Whatever your inner critic says, makes you drive yourself really hard. And often that's, for me, when I'm trying something new, for example, writing a new program or trying to write a blog article or whatever, the inner critic words in my ear make me distract myself. That's where I get into resistance, right? And that's when I get hard on myself. Oh, I don't write well enough. I don't write well as well as she does. I start comparing myself to others. And the belief, the real belief, the real knowing that I'm good enough just as I am, and allowing myself to love myself, whether I'm achieving or producing anything, that's been the key to this real slow power possibility. So when you know, what's the possibility here that I'm kind of trying to paint the picture of, is that when you know your own worth and you love yourself regardless of what you're achieving or mistakes you've made, you're more willing to try new things. You'll take risks because you aren't afraid to fail. You aren't driven by the need to please others at the expense of yourself. And you're not as outward focused, right? You're able to slow down and listen to your own heart, your own feelings. You're not constantly trying to get the approval of someone else. You can feel more deeply connected to yourself and others. And ultimately, again, you have more peace, calm, and grounding, and you're healthier. Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes is by Tara Moore. She wrote the book Playing Big, and it's all about going big in your life and really meeting your biggest goals. And so she coined the phrase, when you think you need more self-discipline, you actually need more self-love. Self-love, self-compassion really is one of the core components of slow power. And this piece of like, it's okay, you're lovable just as you are, is really one of the underpinnings of slow power. When you don't know your own worth and you don't love yourself no matter what, it kind of you instead are driven by this like perfectionism, comparing mind, what is everybody else doing right outside of yourself. And so we'll go into an exercise about it, but first I want you to write a couple notes for yourself. Where in your life and about what in your life are you the most self-critical? Where do you find yourself being hard on yourself most frequently? Maybe it's about what you're accomplishing or not accomplishing, your health, your physical appearance, your parenting, your home, your organization, whatever. What are the areas? There's lots of different areas where you can be unreasonably hard on yourself. What's your experience when you're listening to your inner critic? Sometimes you hear her or hear him. What's the impact when you listen? Does it make you jump out of bed and want to meet your goals? And what if you truly felt worthy of love just for being you? What would be possible for you right now? What might you do if you trusted that you're good enough just as you are? I know for me, even doing these talks, right? I've done this talk before. I've done similar talks like this before. This whole, oh, I'm not good enough, I didn't do it well enough, whatever comes up every single time. And it's just another opportunity to just practice being me. And what's possible if I wasn't afraid of this? Would I do more talks? Would I lead more programs? Would I teach more? Would I write more? Would I help more people because I would be putting my ideas out into the world more? So I want to walk you guys through a little exercise. It's a self-soothing exercise that's a combination that I kind of put together. That's a combination of work that I learned from Kristen Neff, who's a self-compassion researcher, who's amazing. Her books have been pivotal in the work that I do. And Tara Brach, she's a psychologist and a meditation teacher and a speaker and an author. And the two of them come at this self-compassion in a slightly different way. And I've kind of integrated what they teach. So bring to mind a project or a task on your list. Well, actually, you can do it this way, or I'm going to give you two options. You can either bring to mind a project or a task or something on your list that you're not getting to, like a goal you're kind of not moving forward on because you're feeling stuck, or just bring to mind a difficulty that you're having in your life, a place where you're hard on yourself, that when you're hard on yourself, it just keeps you more stuck. So as an aside, right? I'm not a weight loss coach, but I have a lot of women in my coaching practice or in my acupuncture practice who would like to lose weight. And one of the things I know for sure about diets and diet culture is that it's only when you love yourself and your body exactly as it is that you can lose the weight. It's like the self-awareness and the self-acceptance of I love myself just as I am, that you're able to make the changes. Because when you're beating yourself up, I don't like this about myself, your body doesn't know the difference between being attacked from the outside or being attacked from the inside. An attack is fear, makes cortisol release. And when you're under stress, you're not going to be able to do the things that you need to do to move forward. You need to be calm and grounded and resourced. And that comes from this self-love. So actually, here's another example. If weight loss isn't on anybody's minds here, home organization, right? When my house is messy, and I've talked to lots of women about this, when my house is messy, I can beat myself up. Oh, you're disorganized. You should spend 30 minutes doing you should do all these things. And this is kind of like motivating myself with the whip versus with the carrot. The carrot is, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't make me want to get up and like clean my house when I'm like beating myself up for being disorganized. But I know that an organized house makes me feel better. So how do I get there? Well, I love myself and my house just as it is. And from a place of self-love, wanting something different for myself, even though I love myself just as it is right now, that's when I can make cleaning up my house a self-compassion practice. So those are some examples. So go back to your mind and bring to mind either a task that you're not completing, something that's kind of you're bumping up against, or a place you're being hard on yourself for whatever reason. And you can put your hand on your heart and just notice, what does it feel like to experience this suffering? I'll call it suffering, this place you're stuck, this suffering. See if you can name the feeling. Maybe it's anger, frustration, or sadness. When you think about whatever this difficulty in your life is. Name it and then investigate what it feels like in your body. What does it feel like to feel angry, anxious, sad, frustrated, whatever it is you're feeling? Does your heart beat faster? Do you feel tension in your throat or jaw? Maybe it feels like rocks in your stomach. Just take a minute and explore it. Is there a temperature, a color, or a texture? Is it soft? Is it hard? And while you're doing this, you're breathing nice and slow and deep. You might even ask this feeling, this sensation, what do you want for me to know? Just see if any messages come through as you investigate. And as you breathe, remember that you're not alone in this feeling. Everybody feels this way sometimes. This kind of anger or anxiety or frustration is a natural and normal part of life. You're not alone. Life isn't supposed to be easy all the time. It's a common experience that you're having with this suffering. You're not alone in that, even just the four of us here feel that same way sometimes. And I often just zoom out and think of all the millions of people when I'm feeling really frustrated or alone or angry. I zoom out and think about the millions of other people feel exactly like I do right now. Then this is the part that's a little corny. You might not be able to do it in a meeting, but you can do it now if you want. You fold your arms across your chest and kind of grab your opposite bicep or tricep. And you literally embrace yourself. I know you don't have to do it, but it feels really good. And you kind of stroke yourself a little bit. You can also put your hands on your face and kind of like, oh, honey, it's going to be okay. Like, just like you would hold the face of a child or even a pet that you were trying to show love to. And then speak to yourself the way you would speak to a child. Soft tone, gentle caress, a hug, kind of sway side to side. And this is that gesture of nurturing. You're really ideally going to try to give that nurturing to yourself, but in lieu of giving it to yourself, you can imagine giving it to someone else, maybe even to a dear friend who is coming to you with the same issue. And breathing deeply into that caress. And just see as your eyes close and you're caressing yourself, if that first feeling that you investigated in your body, see if it's moved and shifted at all. For me, the energy has gone like down from my heart and more into my belly. But maybe there's been some shift for you. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and you might want to jot down some notes about this process, this self-soothing process. That from an intellectual, because I know you guys are all smarty pants, I'll tell you the steps and I can send out this as well. But self-compassion requires mindfulness. So first you got mindful of what the suffering was and you named it. I'm angry, I'm whatever, you anxious, frustrated, whatever the suffering is, you become mindful of the emotion, the suffering, and you name it. Then you investigate it a little bit. What does it feel like in my body? Where does it live, right? You just kind of go there and go in, right? Feel the feelings. Then you remind yourself you're not alone, that you connect to the common humanity of that emotion, right? I am not alone in this. Like, I'm not the only one feeling this right now. And then you nurture. You bring self-kindness. I'm worthy of compassion. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy just as I am. That sort of physical reminder. And what this does is this is something you can practice all the time, over and over, in any moment of frustration, anger, difficult emotion. You can just bring to mind these 3 steps and you can kind of go through them quickly. It's been a life changer for me. It's not something that you do once and it's over. It's something you do, sometimes you do it several times in a row in the moment, but it's something you can do every day, every morning, every evening, anytime you feel stuck. This is what I call the self-compassion mantra or the self-compassion break. And it's really useful for moving you forward when you feel stuck on a goal. So in order to do that, or as part of doing that, it requires you to feel your feelings and be able to name them. That's a big part of the slow power process, is to be able to tune into your own feelings. We're not going to do too much more about that right now, but it is we go in detail in the bigger program about that. Okay, the third big idea that I'm going to share today is about the seasons. And I think this one's really fun and important because one, I love it, the weather, like I was saying at the beginning, but 2, I love seeing how we have seasons, not just in the year, but in the day, in the week, and in the month. And how when we are in line, Chinese medicine is all about being in line with aligned and in tune with the seasons. And maybe the more I age, maybe the more I get in tune with nature and my animal nature, the more I realize that we can harness the power and the energies of the seasons so that we can do our best work in the world. And when we fight against our own internal seasons or the seasons that we're participating in, that's when we get burned out and are less effective. So there's obviously a spring, summer, autumn, and winter every year. We know our calendar, but there's also one of every month and every day. So in spring, I'll tell you the energy of spring: new growth, possibilities, building energy, vitality, movement, potential, new projects. And there's a season of the year that's spring, but it's also in every day, it's like morning time, right? It's the morning. And also for women who are menstruating, spring is like the follicular phase. So I like to start with spring because I'm a spring person. When talking about the menstrual cycle, it's easier to start with winter. Winter is the bleed, right? You go inside, you get dark, right? Then the spring is just after the bleed, you've got less estrogen and lots of energy, and you're building blood, and it feels like lots of possibilities, right? New movement potential. Then summer is ovulation, right? This season represents abundant energy, expansion, growth, activity, creativity, vibrant yang energy, right? It's like, and it's analogous in the day to like midday or noon, like high noon is yang, it's summer, right? And that's where a lot of us like to live, is spring and summer. We like to have new possibilities and projects and growth and vacations and all the things, all the movements. And it's great. I will admit, I love those. And I'm a total spring and summer person. Love, love, love. But what happens if we don't honor the autumn, which is the one that's hard for me to honor, and the winter, we can't go back into spring and summer very effectively. So autumn is harvesting the bounty from spring and summer, from the growth and output. And it's creating space for the emptiness, the stillness, and the clearing out, the letting go. And it's analogous to the late afternoon, early evening, and it's analogous to the luteal phase in a woman's menstrual cycle, where you want to start to slow down a little bit. Maybe that's when your PMS starts. It's like, you know, you've ovulated. Maybe there's a fertilized egg and an implantation, maybe not. And it's like getting ready for the bleed or getting ready for winter, right? The harvesting, the integrating what's been happening in your day, in your week, in your month, in your year. And so then winter, long nights encourage hours of introspection, time to imagine new possibilities, darkness, letting go of what no longer serves. And it's analogous in our day to nighttime, being in deep rest, right? That's the most yin time of day. So where most of us go wrong, especially high achieving people, is that we think we can be in spring and summer all the time. And we try to override the forces of nature asking us to slow down. But what slow power requires or promises a new possibility of is that when you create the space to rest, slow down, attune inward, which is sort of the autumn and the winter of the year, but the autumn and the winter of every day. And I would argue you need an autumn and a winter of every month, that you'll ultimately find more energy, motivation, inspiration to do your best work in the world. And that really our success comes from the pause. Right now, just today, I had a session with a client who I've been helping her for years now, but she's actually shutting down her business completely. She's so burnt out. She hates it. She can't think of doing it. Her last day in her office is December 3rd, and she can't wait to be done, because she was in spring and summer for 5 years, just executing, building and executing, growing and hiring people. And there was no autumn and winter. And so not only she just never slowed down. And what happens, it's just like a field. You can't keep planting a field. It's eventually going to go kaput. There's no more nutrients here, right? And so instead of having a slow week a month, or a slow day or two a week, so that she could maintain the sustainable success, she just went for it, and now is completely burnt out. So I always think what might have been possible if she had scheduled a little bit of downtime. And I used to do the same, and still do sometimes. By the way, I teach what I most need to know. This isn't like I have this all figured out. I teach this because this is still my practice. I used to go from full on seeing patients and clients all day, and then total couch potato, couldn't move, right? So go from spring, summer to winter, totally missing autumn, that time where it's just slowing down a little, creating a little space. Not only did I feel bad about myself in the total couch potato winter phase, which, has its own benefits of rest, but not if you're beating yourself up about resting. It doesn't really work the same way. I wasn't integrating sort of what I learned and what I had achieved. I was just sort of going from all on to all off. And that's not a really helpful dichotomy, right? The wise place in the middle knows that there's times for being full vibrant on, and there's times for rest. And it's not actually beneficial to beat yourself up about any of them. Yeah. And like, let me be clear here. I'm not saying that spring and summer is bad, that all of a sudden we can't be in that go, go, go mode ever. I want to be in go, go, go mode when it serves and to the extent that it serves. So it's really about figuring out when. And really, it's about building up your trust muscle, recognizing that you can trust that even when you're slowing down, you're still in a process of growth and development and achievement, because I don't think any one of us is going to like stop achieving our goals. I wouldn't want that for you, and I don't want that for myself. So quick journaling question. What is your favorite season of the year and why? Both, actually out in the world, but also in terms of your own activity level. Like which one do you default to? Do you go to most easily? Like I said, I'm a spring person. Second question, what's your relationship to rest? Maybe it's easy for you, maybe it's hard for you. And what stories do you tell yourself about downtime? One last journaling question for now. If you had more energy, inspiration, motivation, and power, what would you most want to create in your life right now? Okay. So I see we're getting a little close on time, so I'm going to move on. So I'm going to summarize. I see Ruby just joined a little bit ago, so you might have missed the beginning. I'm going to summarize the 3 big ideas I shared today. Number 1 of my slow power big ideas is you are overworking and it's keeping you stuck. It's natural and normal to think that hard work is the only way to achieve success. That's what we were told by our society, our culture, our parents, our teachers, but it's not working anymore. Number 2, when you think you need more self-discipline, you actually really need more self-love. You're good enough just as you are. You can love yourself no matter what, whether you're achieving or not achieving. And having this level of self-compassion will actually help you achieve your goals more easily. We think that like beating ourselves to a pulp and just making ourselves do the thing is the way forward, but slow power flips that on its head. It's the opposite. Only when you love yourself and accept yourself for exactly who you are, exactly as you are, do you have the resourcing to make the changes you seek. And we spent a lot of time on self-compassion in the program. And then the last big idea is about the seasons, that creating space, slowing down to attune to your inner wisdom allows you to harness the power of ease and calm to reach your goals. So you have to go into this autumn and winter in order to have a really fruitful spring and summer. And you can do that on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. One of the ways, just as an aside, that I do this on a daily basis is mornings, right? So your morning, how you spend your morning is pretty impactful in terms of your success and your power for the rest of the day. So setting aside a little bit of intentional time in the morning where you're not on your phone, you don't look at your phone, whatever it is that fills you up. So for me, it's drink some hot lemon water or something warm to drink, some water, journal a little bit, get some thoughts out, often some gratitude about what I'm grateful for, what I'm intending for the day, some intention, and a little bit of meditation, just some self-reflection. If I can do those three things instead of getting online, answering emails, whatever, my whole day has a sort of foundation of slow power. So using the seasons of your day, and same thing in terms of in the evening, unwinding, turning off screens, stopping answering external demands for your time, sort of in the autumn of your day, in the evening, is going to make your night a little bit better, right? People have so many sleep issues because we're not in sync with the seasons of our day. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick intro about the program because you guys have made it through this far, and I just want to speak from my heart here. In healing this long-standing pattern of overdoing and overworking for myself, I landed on some magic here that I really wasn't meant to keep to myself. So I know that this slower power process will bring more success, more ease, and more joy into your life. And I just don't want to keep it to myself anymore. I want to tell you a little bit about this unique program that I developed, that I have a couple spots left, and I would love to maybe get some of you in. It's a 5-month journey where we meet twice a month on Mondays, and it's based on the cycles of the seasons, right? And I'll go through it a little bit. So there's a going dark. We start with winter, actually. This going dark, this getting honest about ourselves, about our current situation. We work with your inner critic, and we find your inner critic's role and how it's keeping you stuck. And we start to create the space to let go and bring in a new identity and a new way of being in the world. And in this section, we do work on inner critic and limiting beliefs and letting go. And then we get to spring, where we get to plant the seeds of possibility. I introduce and we explore together ways for you to connect to your heart's guide, your intuition, your inner wisdom. You make a choice to step into a new path, create some intentions and practices and accountability structures. We work here on self-compassion, on your values, on what really makes you come alive in the world, and on feeling your feelings, knowing your needs, being able to ask for what you need, and tuning into yourself. And then we move into the summer. And even though it's not actually in summer, it's the summer of the program, and it's about activating your slow power vision. It's when you go into action and activation and potential. This is where you get to work on your vision. We do things around boundaries, right? So really setting boundaries so that you know your yeses, you can say no to what isn't aligned anymore. We work on habits, getting into action around your goals, and we do a section on our relationship with time, which is a really interesting thing to explore, because our relationship with time is often a clue to some inner relationships that we have. And then part 4 is harvest, gratitude, celebration. It's autumn. It's when we get to celebrate what we've learned and integrate what we've learned. And in this one, we obviously do the harvesting and the integrating, but I also do a segment on befriending your fears, because what, if anything, will keep you stuck and stop you from using the tools from the program? It's fear, right? It's the resistance, it's fear. And so really having a process where you befriend your fears rather than try to push the fears away and, hate on the fears. It's like befriend your fears. And so that's in the autumn part of the program. So I'd love to hear any comments, any questions. If any of you are interested in the program, right now, the early bird pricing technically came off the website, but I'd be happy to extend it if you wanted to jump in today. So do you guys have any questions? If you want, I can stop the recording here so that you don't feel like your questions and comments are getting recorded. So I'll sign off the recording now. Bye, recording.